assassini eya bodin din maye moja ana nanum shego yadi tu omaye Edomene wasoso say be biatwasu minda trasu koto kane na assess them minga endu ye muna maya sositu atumsa
Welcome all of you to the 5th Annual UPSA Leadership Lecture Series. Chairman of Council, Dr. Kofi Ohene-Konadu, Mr. Kwame Pianim as special guest of honor of this lecture, the Vice Chancellor, Pro-Vice Chancellor, Deans, Directors, members of Convocation, all members of the UPSA community, faculty, staff, students, Your Excellencies, Nime, Name, Nananum, distinguished invited guests, the media, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome you to UPSA's 5th Annual Leadership Lecture Series. It is an honor to introduce today's honored guest speaker. But before he comes, I'd like to please ask us to put our hands together for a rousing welcome to the Vice Chancellor of UPSA for his welcome remarks. Thank you.
Good morning. Our distinguished guest speaker, Mr. Kwame Pianim, and a lovely wife, Chairman of the University Council, Dr. Kofi Ohene-Konadu, and members of the University Council, the former Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Dua Jahu, Ministers of State and members of Parliament here present, Nime, Naname, Nananum, members of Convocation, alumni of this great university, members of the media, distinguished invited guests, my dear students, welcome. I warmly welcome you all to the UPSA Alumni Leadership Lecture Series, the 5th of the series since its inception. I would like to begin by appreciating Mr. Kwame Pianim, a renowned economist and statesman, for accepting our invitation to be our guest speaker for the UPSA Annual Leadership Lecture Series. A warm welcome to all other distinguished dignitaries, especially the former Speaker of Parliament, who have responded positively to our invitation. The Annual Leadership Lecture Series was established in 2017 as a platform to critically examine, deliberate, and discuss critical global and national issues pertinent to the society and proffer solutions for Ghana's sustainable development. Mr. Pianim joins other exceptional leaders from our country, namely His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Ibn Chambers, who delivered the inaugural UPSA Annual Leadership Lecture. His Excellency John Ajikum Kufuor, His Majesty Otumfuo Osei II, and His Eminence Cardinal Apia Texin, who delivered the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th lectures respectively. Distinguished guests, this annual leadership lecture series is live on the multimedia platforms and CTFM. Year after year, the leadership series has been a very impactful platform with positive lessons and insights that have been relayed for total reflection, and I must say, we are excited and look forward to this feature by Mr. Kwame Pianim. The topic for this lecture by Mr. Pianim is Re-Imaging Ghana's Development Trajectory for a Peaceful and Prosperous Nation by 2057, our 100th anniversary, through the perspective of the people. I believe that this chosen topic is particularly pertinent and appropriate for us in these times we are in. The world has witnessed major challenges in the last 4 years, including a global pandemic, war in Europe, extra weather events, and geopolitical uncertainties with the current Israeli-Palestinian conflicts, coupled with rapid changes in technology, to name but a few. Ghana has not been spared and faces an extremely challenging outlook, and the economic situation is likely to remain challenging before it rebounds. As Ghanaians, we continue to look for ways to reduce the economic hardships that continue to affect livelihoods. We look to leaders to stabilize the economy so the private sector can thrive, to create employment, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for accepting our invitation to this lecture, which promises to be memorable and thought-provoking. On behalf of the Council, management, and the entire university community, I welcome you and leave you in the company of our distinguished speaker, Mr. Kwame Pianim. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor, for your welcome remarks that sets the tone for today's event. As I mentioned earlier, it is an honor to introduce today's honored guest speaker, Mr. Kwame Pianim. Kwame Pianim is a Ghanaian financier and former government official. He served as CEO of the New World Investments, a company he founded in 1995. As an economist, his philosophy is multidimensional, but a consistent theme has been the essential incompatibility between the economic agenda of poor nations, or what ought to be their economic agenda, and the priorities of the Bretton Woods system. In 2001, he was appointed the chairman of the Public Utility Regulation Council, PURC, of Ghana, a high-level commission that's tasked with the responsibility of overseeing and regulating electricity and water utilities. Mr. Pianim also served as chairman of the board at UBA Ghana from the board's inception in 2004 until 2014. He has also served as chairman of the board at Bayport Financial Services since 2002, and has also chaired the boards of Airtel Communications Ghana and eTransact. Invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, with a resounding applause, let's welcome today's honored guest, Mr. Kwame Pianim.
Congratulate UPSA for being one of the few institutions which, when they say 10, it means 10. It means we are making progress. I'll stand on the protocol but recognize the chairman of council and my old friend, Right Honorable Joe Ajaho. While they are getting the presentation ready to be put there, I'll tell you what I'm going to try to do today. I'll liken the economic takeoff of any nation like a plane trying to take off. We in Ghana have been on the tarmac all these 64 years. You need to prepare and take off. Without macroeconomic stability, you cannot take off. So we are still on the tarmac. I'll try to work with you to reimagine. The Vice Chancellor made it engineering way, re-image. My topic is reimagining. You and I are going to imagine how Ghana can adopt a new development trajectory, because the path we have been taking, the stop-go gap, will not work. And then see how we can then deliver a prosperous and peaceful Ghana. Ghana is already peaceful. We are the envy of most people, relatively peaceful. A Chinese friend of mine who moved to Nigeria came back 2 weeks ago and said, Mr. Pianim, Nigeria cannot get out. 2 of my colleagues, their families are looking for money to ransom them. They were kidnapped. But I'm in Ghana, can walk anywhere, so we have it. We've been spared a lot of natural disasters. Ebola came, we didn't have it. Where we are located, there are no hurricanes. Every morning I start by swimming By the time I got out of my pool, there were a couple of mails from the registrar. When you need an executing group around you, you need somebody like the registrar of UPSA to get things moving. And I'm hoping by the miracle I'm going to talk about, all the universities, the institutions, presidency will have chief of staffs like the registrar of UPSA. I thank you, first of all, for having the insight to institute this leadership lecture. It has become increasingly and painfully evident that the leadership deficit in Africa is very expensive. When we start showing the graphs, I'll show you how Ghana and Korea started at the same level of per capita income around the 1960s. In fact, we were higher. 62 years later, Korea has a GDP per capita of $33,000 US. Ghana, $2,000 US. The leadership deficit cost is $30,000 per head of every Ghanaian that people like me and the political leaders of this country owe as a reparation to each Ghanaian the cost of the leadership deficit. So you are addressing a problem that is dear to the heart of not only Ghanaians, but of Africans. Secondly, the list of the competent and accomplished Ghanaians that have come here. As a struggling Catholic, I'm not fit to step in the shoes of Cardinal Turkson. As a humble subject of the Golden Stool, I'm not fit, not even allowed, to step close to the sacred sandals of His Majesty of Tumfo, Osei Tutu II, Asantehene, my overlord and king of Ashanti. So I'll try to sidestep gingerly as I go through to try to let us think a little bit today, have a conversation. And thirdly, I thank you for inviting me. I'm humbled by the invitation. When I compare me to the previous, those who have preceded me in front of this podium, I think you are trying to become one of the many Ghanaian institutions that are trying to make history by inviting alongside these distinguished people an ex-convict like me. Congratulations. Korea had the good fortune of benefiting from US geopolitical concerns, trying to contain communist Russia and communist China, and therefore opened US markets to them, US technology, US capital. So we concede all that, they did that. Spread US security umbrella across Korea so that in a very hostile environment, it could focus on development. But yes, Korea took advantage of them. And as I'll show on the graph by the plane, after you've stabilized macroeconomic stability, you need to take off critical mass. But to take off, you need to have some products and services that you can then supply to the global world. And Korea started with garments, textile, wigs. That was the springboard. And they managed within 20, 25 years to attain critical mass, launched itself, and are now cruising. And when you get to the cruising level, that is where it's a virtuous cycle of growth, where self-regenerating growth takes place. Where you reach above $10,000 per capita income, then your disposable income is enough to feed your basic needs and you can save. So that the nation can move from national savings of about 12% of GDP to about 30, 35. And at 30% GDP, if you need 3 units of capital to produce 1 unit of goods, then at least we can be assured of 8% annual rate of growth. And if your population is also modulated, then you can also grow steadily. That's where we want to go. And I said, Korea had all these advantages, but they took advantage of it. Africa was given the African Growth Opportunity Act to export duty-free selected items to the US market. What did Ghana do with it? Not too much. So I say, yes, Korea had the opportunity, but they took advantage of it. We had something, we didn't take advantage of it. And when the graph comes, you see how it goes. And then the next graph shows the widening. As we took off together, Korea is going like that, and we are gliding like this at the bottom. The graphs will also show you that Korea invests a lot in education. I had a chat before this lecture with Dr. Letitia Adelaide Appiah of the National Population Council. Most of us during our development programs don't think much about the National Population Council. After I talked to her, I got 2 of my friends to say, let's project the population of Ghana. What will it look like? At the 2.12% annual rate growth of population, because our fertility level has continued high, mortality is declining, therefore constant about 2%, 2.1%. If we continue doing that, by 2057, we'll be 69 million Ghanaians in this small place. See how crowded we are. It will overburden the free senior high school system, the school system, the university systems. Lecturers will be lecturing 200 students. In the primary schools, 100, 200 people. But if we are able to modulate the population, because we started with Korea, 3%, 3.5% for us, 3.2% for Korea, of annual growth of population in the 1960s. They brought it down so drastically, they are now negative, and are trying to encourage people to have more children. And we are still doing it. We cannot develop, no country has ever developed a 2% growth in population. And with every woman, not every woman, the average woman having 6 children, we can't do it. The olden days when my mother had 10 children and had a sheep delivered to her for having 10 children, it's over. We need to modulate our population. So I was going to give that to you in a graph, but I said I will not frighten you because that is just projecting. But if we are able to modulate it to 1.1% in the first half, because look, we have 33 years to go. 33 years before 2057, when we're celebrating our 100th anniversary. Korea did it in 25 years. You and I can do it. But to do it, we need to modulate the population. So if we are able to bring down population growth to about 1.1% for the next 13 years or so, and then to 0.7% for the next 20 years before we go to 2057, then we have a population of about 45 million. That is manageable. And I set a target of $10,000 GDP. That is easily attainable. Why 10? We could do more. But I wanted to move away from the current pattern of stop-go. If I were to show you the graphs, you see that we go 11%, 8%, 0%, 0.5%. What we need to do is what the Latins say, festina lente. Slowly, prudently. And I said it at between 5 to 6% annual growth of rate. If we do that, we've gone to the IMF 17 times. We don't want to go there again. No more 18. But if we modulate the population, we should be able to do that. And what I'm going to do is to invite you to join me as we reimagine a new development trajectory for Ghana. And I do that in an interview with my great-granddaughter. Because what we are going to do is to make sure that we deliver a continued, relatively peaceful and prosperous country to our grandchildren. The way we've been living at the expense of our grandchildren, borrowing for them to repay, is not sustainable, and we have to change it. And we do this by making sure that we have the relative macroeconomic stability that we need. You cannot save and invest safely when your city is slipping like a yo-yo every time. The Teachers Fund I helped set up for them would have been a $1 billion, $2 billion fund. It wasn't that the city was being badly mismanaged. But even that, I think they are close to about $900 million now. So we need to stabilize the currency. And if it's not stable, every businessman is rushing, the foreign ones. Those who are making money, every quarter they are declaring dividends and taking it out. And this is why we are always short of dollars. And we need a modicum of rule of law. All of us under the law, not just a few. If we don't have rule of law, we can't move. Disciplined. All that has been happening, not that there are no laws. The Public Financial Management Act is solid. None of what has happened, they said they should not have happened. Parliament should have made sure it didn't happen. But none of our institutions made sure. And then it happened. So we need a delicately balanced political stability also, macroeconomic stability, political stability. If you don't have political stability, you grow fast like Ethiopia. But you have to fight yourself to destroy what you built. Rwanda is doing well. They haven't gone through the political process we've gone through. Touch wood, I hope they don't have to fight among themselves when they are trying to get their politics together. And the politics means you and I being able to disagree peacefully and making concessions so that we can move. The institutional checks and balances should work. The judiciary should work to deliver fair justice to all. Not only that, the universities should work. Our schools, so that when somebody comes here has a master's degree and says, I've done this, it was not that somebody wrote the things for them, but they really studied. So all of us, you and I, have to make sure that we can deliver this. So I invite you, join me as we do this reimagining. A miracle happened in Ghana. From the ashes of the economic debacle, meltdown, call it whatever, of the 2020s, the unprecedented bankruptcy that we declared. Poverty raised 27% and rising. Public debt hovering 90% of GDP. Governments trying to spend 27% of GDP when we raise only about 15% of taxes and grants. This is where we were. But from these ashes, green shoots sprang up. And there was a miracle. We decided no more 18. We are not going to break the 18. We are not going to have an 18th IMF strategy. So at Ghana, at 100, will be peaceful and prosperous. Peaceful and prosperous, that is, you and I will make sure that the average Ghanaian also benefits from this inclusive growth. Because you and I are only safe and secure when the many poor are also prosperous. Not even prosperous, but they can eat 2-3 square meals a day. And I do this in a discussion, an interview with my great-granddaughter, who is 28, doing a study on the economic miracle of Ghana. We are cleaner than Singapore. Can you imagine that? Clean. I had the occasion recently to drive to Pando, a region that used to be very clean. I also drove from Sunyani by road to Kumasi. In the middle of the roads, plastic all around. You can see grass as tall as this by the roadside. In the olden days, we in communal activity would have cleaned them, but now we wait for Zoom Lion to clean it. And when Zoom Lion is cleaning it, our tax monies are not enough to pay, so we go to the Eurobond to borrow to pay. And that's why we are where we are. But we imagine a clean, prosperous, peaceful Ghana. The only thing I would like you to indulge me is that I'm still alive in 2057. Don't ask why I'm still hanging around. The greatest national security officer we've had in this country, Captain Kwajo Chikata, once said that those of us beyond 40, in the revolution, remember, they wanted everybody over 40 gone because they were under 30. He said those of us old people were waiting in the departure room in order to get our wooden pajamas, and know what the wooden pajamas is. But I'm still hanging around, and I'm excited. The interview is taking place in 2056, and I'm excited that Ghana is so prosperous. The miracle had happened. Just as excited as when as a teenager in Achimode school, I welcomed the independence of Ghana in 1957. And in those early days, we did not even think the sky was the limit. And the ambitions we had for Ghana, the blaster of Africa, seemed to have no bounds. And before we do that, let us encourage ourselves with a quotation from the American cultural anthropologist, Professor Margaret Mead, and I quote, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful and committed individuals never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world." And she says, it is the only way the world has ever changed. So I invite you and I with a few ideas to see how we can change our beloved Ghana. And we start with the questions. And I start by saying, how do we remove the shackles? I've gone one step ahead of me. The shackles, in order to have nimble feet, to be able to take off, there were shackles around us that we needed to remove. First is the population drag. We've talked about it already. That is, we need to move. And the population drag was removed when Parliament passed an act abolishing child marriages. The Constitution of Ghana says you are a child until you are 18. Nobody could marry anybody under 18. And the district assemblies, and I said reinvigorated, but maybe what we should talk about is repackaged and re-strengthened, worked with the traditional rulers and made sure that this law worked. And it worked in that everybody in the districts, and we move what I call a national population and development council. That will cover also the birth and death register under it, and the National Identification Authority also under it. Because in most countries, everybody is born in a district. So you are registered in the district where you are. It's your district number, registered number, that you use to get a passport, and that will get you into education, free education, everywhere. At the district level. And these people, they work together to make sure that child marriages are no more. And once we have a handle on the population, we can then go ahead. And I said, with that, we modulated the population to around 45 million. And that meant that we could do what we wanted to do, grow, be able to finance education, and then corruption was the other thing we had to get rid of. Because whether you like it or not, what has been killing this country is corruption. And then all our politicians have made us believe that spending is development. Why? Because around spending, procurement is the web where our personal interests are, our percentages. And in order to kill that, my granddaughter asked me, how was corruption killed? And I said, it was difficult but not difficult. Parliament passed an act based on the prisoner's dilemma. The dilemma puts a tension between the giver and the taker, so that whoever reports first, and we have 6 months within which to report. If you took the bribe and you went and reported, you kept the bribe. If you gave the bribe and you went and reported, your bribe was given back to you and you got 50% of the fine, the penalty that was imposed on the other person, which is 200% of whatever he did. And then, if you're a contractor, you get 5 points for any future government contracts that you apply for. And the guilty party is given 10 years prison sentence, minimum. If the contract had anything to do with health, hospitals, education, infrastructure that may endanger human life, the penalty was life. And we killed corruption just by putting tension between the giver and the taker so that the first to report benefits. And it worked. The next question my granddaughter put to me was that, Opa, I hear you also killed corruption using digitalization. I say yes, because she had gone to try to interview the Controller Accountant General and the District Assembly Common Fund Administrator, and she found out they were robots. What we did in the miracle was that all payment systems were digitalized. You didn't need a Controller Accountant General, the big staff. You had young, ICT savvy people wearing sneakers and sandals wandering around the robots. Social Security payments, salaries, third-party payments from the Controller Accountant General where people queue up there, all that is digitalized. SNIT payments, the District Assembly Common Fund 7%, it's all digitalized. A percentage of tax revenue. So immediately tax revenue went in to the Controller Accountant General, the robot just pushed a button. And once the button was pushed, the salaries were disbursed into our accounts. SNIT got their payments. District Assembly Common Fund got their payments. And there too, there's no District Assembly administrator. It's a robot. That robot, Parliament has already said the district assemblies, this percentage goes to this district, this district. The robot punches, and every district, the money is put in the account. So there's no more, we haven't received the District Assembly Common Fund for 3 months. The third quarter has still not come. The first quarter has still not come. and we are in June or July. Computers went. And for contractors, it was done physically. We have a road contract to be built in 1 year. It means every month we'll pay you 8%. The last 4% payment is paid when you present the final certificate, and in exchange for the paper you give as guarantee, your performance bond. So when we take your performance bond, we give it to you, we give you the last 4%. Automatic, every month is paid. If the algorithms find out that you are getting the money paid and your physical performance is less, it converts what you are being overpaid as a loan. And remember, your bank has guaranteed that, so your bank has to pay the interest to those. And you can't go and talk to a robot. The algorithms are there to make sure. National health, this is also sent. And the doctors who are providing services to them also see, it's plain, we publish it. Business and Financial Times, that's what they publish. The contractors, you are paid. You can't come and tell me I bought bricks from you, I can't pay, I've not been paid. I can see there. So a little bit of sunlight also helps to kill corruption. Even Galamsey, the intractable one, was killed. ICT and apps. And I invite you, an all-girls school in Kumasi, prepare the software. KNUS to help them. And they arranged with a space program of India and put it up there, satellite. And had a digitalized map of Ghana everywhere. So to be flashing red where Galamsey is going on. And it's beamed. Our favorite TV programs at the corner of it will be flashed where the red lights are. So the Chief of Staff, the Minister for Lands, the CDS, the IGP, District Chief Executives, Nananum, District Chief Executives, none of them can feign ignorance or being complicit in the destruction of our environment. We'll all see it being done. So even that, with a little bit of ICT, the destruction of our rivers, children being born with deformities, our cocoa exports being blocked because of cyanide residue, the destruction of our rivers. And I traveled recently. The only river that was not brown and dark was the Barakesi Dam in Ashanti. And even that, we killed it with ICT. And then, the question was also asked, how did we manage to stop the overspending that was macroeconomic instability? Because as I said, we're spending too much. But that also, we did it by reimagining the state. By right-sizing the government. Government was then limited to where its core competencies are: to provide security, primary health, education, all the good things that we need to have a human capital that will help us develop. If you take a look later on at the graph that will show the education rate of Korea, it has the best, most skilled workforce in the world. You cannot develop with a workforce, human capital that is low. So we need to invest a lot in human capital. We can do that if the government has enough resources to do that. And we get government to do to get away from the things that others can do better. And I compare it with the companies also. You know, when Valco came to Ghana in the early 60s, there were no private sector people to provide services to it. So we built a Valco hospital. It built Kaiser Flats to house its people. It had its own transportation. But now, the companies that come now, your people can go by Uber, they can go by taxi, they can go by buses. You don't need to do that. The same way, when the Ghana government, we lack the people. Imagine poor Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah trying to develop this country. How many engineers did we have? Doctors, skilled professionals, negligible. Now in Ghana, and I keep saying, there is no field of human endeavor that there are no Ghanaians performing at the highest level. When a great American senator had a problem with a brain cancer, one of the doctors working on him was a trained doctor, not from one of the heritage schools, from Fancy Benson or Gesn and this, Navrongo Secondary School. So we have the people, big data everywhere. We have the people. So the government can now step aside and let the people in. The only thing our people don't have is access to capital. And you and I, we are going to reimagine how we can capitalize them. So there are a few things that the government can do. The government, education, health, security. Our ports, no private citizen should be manning anything at the airports. Our airports are security gate. Harbors, the government should man them. But when it comes to railways, the government now has no business. We can give sovereign guarantee to Ghanaians. Some of them will own the tracks. Just like we own the roads, the government owns the roads. When it comes to running the rolling stock, I can own a rolling stock on the rail and say all I want is to take people and their cars from Accra to Kumasi for their funerals. You put your car in it, you sit in it, sleeper, it goes to Kumasi in the night, drops you, you get into your car and do your business. Is this new? It happened when I was young. That's why we are reimagining. The sleeper railway was there between here. You put your car on it, sit in it, when you go to Kumasi, get your car, drive it, put it right back and come back. So we are reimagining. The only condition, and so all the state enterprise that we have, there's no business in government owning banks, owning hotels, sell them to Ghanaians. Transparently, it's difficult, even some of my people in the NPP who believe in private enterprise, They are jealous of people because they are being sold. In my life, I've come across some of the wealthiest people in the world. Serious billionaires. I don't envy them. They sleep 3 hours a day, making sure other people are working. They create jobs for the people. Sleep 3 hours a day. They don't have time to enjoy their yachts and planes. They don't have time to sit and eat and drink the good wines that they can afford. Why do you envy them? Once Ghanaians accepted that businessmen constituted a national asset to be cherished, so that they develop ulcers, high blood pressure, in creating jobs for the youth, so that the youth are employed gainfully, healthily employed, and they are not a threat to us on the streets. We allow them to buy all these state assets and run them. And then they have to find the capital to recapitalize them, the working capital, and have sleepless nights to keep some of these. Because some of the most difficult people in this country are our workers. It will be their headache to train them and work with them. So with that also, we make sure that we right-size the government. Government got out, the private sector came in. It became a good partnership where we recognized that the private sector was a partner for the business of development, and they are the ones who can do it. I saw in the budget that the Minister of Finance presented this year that he was now talking about this partnership with the private sector. Maybe he would have done better if we have given him a 14-month term to come up with good ideas. The mistake is that Minister of Finance and Industry are going to chair it. We don't want them to chair it. We want the AGI and the people to chair with them as co-chairs. We don't want politicians telling businessmen what they are going to do for them. We want politicians to be humble enough to go to the business people and say, what can we do to help you do better what you are doing? To go and listen, not to go and tell them. So we've taken a step down, the private sector are coming. And the other question my granddaughter asked me is, how did we get the private sector to be respected so that we can entrust them with this? And I said, once the macroeconomic environment was stabilized, they also lowered their profit expectations, so they were not trying to make profit quick in order to sneak away some of their dollars outside or under their bed to fund the next cycle of their business. So their profit margins were there. They were doing corporate social responsibility at the villages. And then when you went to a podium like this, it not be my friend, Right Honorable George Aho, who will be recognized, but the businessman who is selling successfully Chariwati from his constituency, who will be recognized. That's the respect that we then started giving to businessmen. Then how do we finance them? We create Entrepreneurship Development Fund, EDF. The first seed capital comes from the divestiture of Bank of Ghana for misholdings in banks. It doesn't make sense for a referee to also be part of the game. So Ghana International Bank, all the banks in Ghana where the Bank of Ghana is a shareholder, out. We sell them. The state assets that we sold, those are not going to be used for current expenditure. It's also banked there. And this EDF will also manage the sovereign guarantee. What is a sovereign guarantee? Sovereign guarantee is when the government says, this engineer, Joe Ejaho, he has 15 years business experience in mining, gold mining. Okay, Joe, you can, if we give you a gold concession, you can mine it. Yes. What do the companies from Australia, America, what do they come to do? They come, they borrow money, hire our people, hire other experts from outside. We give them the concessions. They then take the gold that is in it. So on the ground, it's $500 billion of gold. Capitalize it, go to the market and borrow. Why can't Engineer Joe Ejaho be given a sovereign guarantee of $100 million? And all the sovereign guarantee says is that any bank here in Ghana or outside who finances Engineer Joe Ejaho, $100 million, if he's not able to pay, will pay. And the gold in the mine will now be part of his assets. What bank will not finance him? He can then recruit Ghanaian engineers, Australian engineers, American engineers to do it. And then we'll not be sitting in our bars complaining the gold mines are leaving only 15% in royalties. The oil, we get only 15%. I remember when I went to my mother, who is a bit of a witch. She knew more economics. If I could explain it to her in fee, and she was explaining to me. I said, we have found gold, fantastic. She listened to me, oil. I said, Asari, so who's going to be digging it? I said, oh, the foreign investors. And how much will we get? I didn't mind her. She said, so if somebody comes, borrows your mortar and your fufu pounder, bring his own materials, your materials, pound the fufu and get about 5 balls and gives you 1/3 of 1 ball. Are you doing well? I said, what do you pay for? So now we are financing our own because we have the people. So we are able to finance our people to do what we want them to do. And then, so we finish that. We know the financing, sovereign. The other thing is, how do you? She then said, grandfather, great-grandfather, you talk about your plane and that you need a springboard to jump off. Korea had Tesla, this and that. And of course, Korea, within 20 years, with a highly educated workforce, are now exporting integrated circuits, cars, electronic devices. Ghana, 62 years after, we are still exporting gold, cocoa beans. Even the beans, we are not able to process into cocoa, liquor, butter, and cake, even though we say we're going to do that. And now we added all to it. We are shipping it out. So she said, what did Ghana find? Because I told her the options for Ghana for takeoff. We cannot copy any country. We can't do what China did, not India, what India did, not what Korea did. But our educated people have to scan the global supply chain and identify where we can use our natural and human resources to add value to things to deliver to the global market. Say, what did you have? And I say, sweetheart, you remember the 2020s. Those were the high days of transition to green energy. Fortunately, Ghana had lithium, cobalt, manganese, graphite, most of the battery-grade materials we have in Ghana. We also have the people. It is now high chemistry. Botswana is trying to take its lithium, process it. Who is leading and helping them? Professor James Dakwa, a Ghanaian professor of chemistry. What they do now, and the copy, some of the people you work with have copyrights, proprietary rights to the technology. It's not like what we do now. You take the raw material and process it for gold and dump the rest. And some of the residue, send it to Switzerland, and those who are refining will take the platinum and so forth. No. They refine it by stream. So the gold, the lithium, everything goes down. So you can then take your platinum, everything. High chemistry. So we have the people. And even in the Ghana Beyond Aid now, want to give concessions of lithium, just as we're doing it in the 1850s, so that vessels will come to Tema and Takoradi. And I saw a write-up in the Australian-American company that is seeking concessions in Ghana. They are close to good ports, so they can take the soil, put it in, and ship it there to add value. We can dig it, add value here, so that our young people, our young engineers and chemists will stay home to add value to our resources. Instead of walking through the desert to Libya to cross the seas in dinghy boats, even during the slave trade, good boats were brought here because the slave drivers have to be in the boat themselves. But we continue to export our natural resources. Our young people will follow them, thinking they are greener pastures, to countries that are closing their borders because they don't want them. They want our lithium and raw materials, but they don't want our people to follow them. And I said, this is what we did. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is now negotiating with Glencore, the Chinese, and all the European companies who are mining these battery-grade mineral ores. That we have 20%, 40% in your company. We don't want you to give us dividends. We will take it in raw materials. They say they are going to market it themselves. We are saying the government free right interest to mines. The government interest. If foreigners are the ones doing it, we will take it and put it to the plants where we'll be processing. So we process the lithium, cobalt, and all these, and arrange with other African countries that have the copper we don't have to exchange parts so that we have it here. And when the materials are here, Samsung and the battery producing companies will come. And when they produce the batteries, then the companies that have come here to build internal engine vehicles will tell them, if you want to stay and continue, We want electric cars. And I told my great-granddaughter, one of the things that Ghana also had was that we had the African Continental Free Trade Area. The head office was here. You see the location of Ghana. We are the center of the earth. Meridian, and then the zero. Tema, right there. So we also had one of the biggest international cargo ports, and Mpoho, just on top of Takoradi. All these are proposals that have been put before government. So I'm not just imagining, I'm reimagining. The port on top of Takoradi near Mpoho. That makes it possible to be used at the warehousing for the African Continental Free Trade Area. So people who want to export things to the African market, 54 countries, 1 billion consumers will use Ghana as a warehouse. And then we have smaller planes moving. We don't want the government to be in airplanes. They're already Ghanaians doing very well, running airlines. But we need the big cargo thing. And the things that cannot come by boat, they come through the harbor. So I said, sweetheart, with the African Continental Free Trade Area and lithium and this, we had a platform to move. But we also don't want to just be. We need to diversify. And what happened was the financing measure that we have. So what Parliament said was that every 3 Ghanaians with 15 years practical operational experience in whatever field you are in, if you put together a company, we'll finance you. If you have an engineer for the technical aspects, a finance person, and a managerial person, we'll finance you. You're a professor, you're in one of the CSIRs, you found something you want to commercialize, come, get 3 people. The only condition we made in all this is that 30% of your company has to belong to the workers. And it was strict. Every year you declare profits, 50% of your profits is declared and divided as dividends so that your workers also get their part. The same on the farms. The people who have trained and certified as agricultural technicians, engineers, they will come, and whether you wanted equipment for farming yourself or equipment to use for land preparation, harvesting, we'll give it to you. Or if you just wanted to buy a truck, a refrigerated truck, where you go as a mobile slaughterhouse to slaughter the chicken for the small poultry farms, for them, package it. We'll give you a loan. So we blurred the line between owners and workers. And all these companies also have to list on the Ghana Stock Exchange. So the workers were happy. The Teachers Fund invested on the funds. And if you're a Ghanaian company, you sourced your goods, meaning engineering services, materials, from Ghanaian-owned companies, you got a special tax exemption. All tax exemptions were abolished. No tax exemptions. You come to dig gold, we are not asking you to give us your capital. Once you make a profit, pay some, so that the police can make sure you are secure. So that the roads can be made, you can drive on. The only tax exemptions will be for Ghanaians who are sourcing goods from other Ghanaians and especially a higher rate for those who source from female-owned businesses. Why? Because our women are the ones who make sure our children are fed, clothed, and they go to school. My brother, you and I, when it comes to watching children, we are useless. I tell people on my fish farm, how often are we feed them? 3 times a day. So 7, yes. About 12, yes. About 3, yes. Pepe, yes, sir. I'm with them 10 o'clock, 11. So we fed them, oh no, sir. Oh, come. They take the feed and go and dump it. 3. It's like you and I, my brother. If we are watching an exciting football and our wives left the baby beside us, the baby will die. But I see women talking, watching TV, and still watching the baby. They are multitasked. You and I, we are trained genetically to be looking out for the lion to shoot. We can't multitask, single task. So the only concession that was being given was to these people from sourcing, and we make sure that Ghanaians source from one another. You'll be surprised if you go out. Now, go to any Chinese company, give them business. Follow their chain. The gravel, the cement, everything, they source it from their Chinese. And it's not only them. Those who have been in our midst, the Lebanese, the Indians, they also are successful. They source from one another. We have to learn to work together to source from one another. And if we are doing that, you are given a concession. The funding, I've gone through the funding, it's okay. And one of the things my granddaughter asked me about, how did we institute discipline? My son, Elton, very bright boy, he has a gap. And it makes sense. He rightly observed, Daddy, Ghanaians, because he once also said that if we're given $500 billion, that's $500 billion, and we use $70 billion to settle our debts, he said, Daddy, it will not benefit the poor. We will not use it to develop. 50% of it, we will steal. And the other 50%, we will lose it through our incompetence. It is true. But he also said, Daddy, we Ghanaians, not that we are genetically thieves, but there are no incentive systems that guide us to do what is right and socially healthy. Just as there are no disincentive systems that monitor, track, arrest, prosecute, and sanction us if it means you've been taking us to prison. It's none. And we need to move that there is discipline, that these sanctions work. No Jantua. And I don't know whether the things I'm seeing now existed when I was young and I didn't see it, or just now. People say, oh, it's normal. You are the head of this university. You are the registrar. Hey, registrar, your sister's Mary's daughter has applied to UPSC. They are going to do the exams. Oh, okay, that's good. Let them do the exam. I hold it that way. Oh, no, no. But we are there. Make sure they get in. Somebody calls me. They say, you are the only person who can make sure that my child goes to sixth form in this school. I say, oh. Did your child pass? No, no, no. He failed. So how can he go to sixth form if he failed? Oh, you can get her in, and then she will do the exam privately. And then I said, but let them go and repeat. No, psychologically it's bad for her. I said, why is it bad? Winston Churchill failed O-level 3 times. Go and fail and do it. People are convinced in Ghana it's not what you know, but whom you know. It's wrong. When I used to drive, I'm driving to Takoradi. The police stopped me. You know, they had these guns. They point at you. Stop me. Sir, you were going 80 miles in a 60, 80 kilometers in a 60 kilometers. I said, no, actually, I was doing 100. Okay, you are going to come to court. I said, second day is too far. Let me go to court in Accra. No, no, you have to talk to my boss. I said, okay. Then I see the boss coming. As he's approaching, his face changes. He's recognizing me. He comes. Hello, Mr. Pianim, how are you? I said, fine. Where are you going to? I said, Takoradi. Oh, okay. I said, boss, I would like to go to Accra to court. Not yet. Who says you are going to court? Corporal, did you arrest Mr. Pianim? No, sir. Have a good trip, sir. My son, who's working and staying in America, always been a serious boy, an engineer, very serious. I said to him, say, Daddy, he should have arrested you and given you the ticket. He said, why? He said, because everybody has to be under the law. I said, okay, Nicky, I agree. But why start with me? He says, exactly you they have to start with. So we all need to go under the law. And I'm going to try to end by saying, you and I, 62 years, or 64, we've been struggling to get this vessel, this plane off. We are held down by corruption, excessive reckless spending, called procurement. Everybody wants to do procurement. In my reimagined state, procurement is not done at the ministries. The ministries are supposed to do monitoring and evaluation. So ministers should be calm in their offices, thinking and projecting ahead. Now go to any ministry. It's filled with people, vendors. We ship that to the districts. We ship that to elected district chief executives. The Ghana Education Service should be doing that. The Ghana Health Service should be doing that. Don't the ministries. My granddaughter asked me, when you shift all these people, use the robots, wouldn't there be unemployment? No. The district assembly common fund staff will move from the head office when we put a computer there to go to the region to strengthen the administration and the financial controls there. The ministries, only policymakers, monitoring and evaluation team will be left. The rest will shift to the districts. An elected district chief executive, repackaged. We'll make sure we have 265 centers of initiative for development. Not all of us sitting under the Jubilee House tree, waiting for manna to fall. Only one center thinking for us. 265. Nature adores diversity. The more diverse we have it, the better. So that 1,000 flowers will bloom, as the Chinese say. And from these elected 265 district assembly chief executives working, we will be able to identify and monitor them. Those who use their district assembly common fund to finance the carpenters around them to make chairs. And those who give the contracts to sexy girls to come to Accra to buy Chinese-made plastic chairs to take there. To do procurement in Accra instead of buying food, fresh food, for the districts around them. We'll monitor them. We'll know who is credible, who is honest, and those are the ones we'll pick our presidents from. We'll know them. The press cannot sell us anybody they want. We'll not follow the trend of Ukraine, Argentina, past America, where TV pundits become presidents because they know how to lie to us. But all these things is within us. We can do it. Budgetization will help us. If you file your ex gratia application, the algorithms will say the Constitution did not qualify you. And even though Jubilee House has added you, it won't pay you. You are not part of it. And if you file it, and the algorithm says that you are an MP, you superintended over budgetary deficits, you are incompetent, you don't deserve ex gratia, you will not be paid. So, with algorithms, a little bit of sunlight, and there's nothing like sunlight for sanitizer. So I end by saying, when I was young, we didn't have TikTok and all that. So a lot of the things we did, we read comics. There was a comic called Pogo. Pogo and his friends, his troops, they've been going around for years looking for the enemy to slaughter. One morning, Pogo summoned his troops. We found the enemy. They all came there with their guns, swords, ready. Mighty leader, show us the enemy, and we went and slaughtered the enemy. And said, we found the enemy. Unfortunately, and that's a good Ghanaian, I'll say, unfortunately, it is us. Grammar should say, I should say, unfortunately, it is we, the enemy. Why do I say that? What has been dragging us? Indiscipline, corruption, excessive compulsive borrowing, in spite of the laws. All these, you and I can put together and change. We have 33 years before 2057. Korea did it about 20, 25 years. When I was in graduate school, (1960s), we were told the Chinese can never develop. Their culture will not make them develop. China has savings rate about 50%. They've developed about $11,000 per capita income. Clean cities, engineers strong. We can do it, but we have to put our mind to say yes. And it is not just you and I alone. As Margaret Mead said, a small group of thoughtful and committed individuals. We have to be thinking. A friend of mine whose first language was German, Ghanaian. Whenever the children did something wrong and say, what? He say, I thought. He said, don't thought, think. And people say, oh, we should think outside the box. No. I want Ghanaian to think. I don't care where you think, inside, outside. What about the box? But I think that we can do it. And the way to do it is that we deliver this prosperity. I've tried to blare capitalism, ownership, and that. We deliver to the needs of the majority of us who are poor, not the wants of people like me. Because once we deliver to the basic needs of the people, and they are reasonably happy, then you and I are safe. So for those of you who will be around for the 100th anniversary of Ghana, 2057, I say happy anniversary, Ayiko, and God bless our homeland, Ghana. I think you have given it to me. Yeah.
Thank you so much to Mr. Pianim for that wonderful address. I think we all have a different impression of not only the word reimagining, but we now understand when our parents and grandparents say the good old days, because some of the visuals he gave us points to a Ghana that was much, much prosperous before we were now here enjoying it. Thank you once again, Mr. Pianim. So we now begin the Q&A session. If anyone has any questions, Mrs. Loco, where are the mics? If anyone has a question, please let us know and we will come with a mic for you to answer. Thank you. So if I may, I would like to ask Mr. Pianim, when you were talking about the good old days when we would actually drive our cars, have a ferry take it to Kumasi, and then do our work and then come back. What would you say went wrong? Why did all these wonderful Ghanaian-owned companies collapse, and why do we find ourselves where we are today without those things or that we had to really move our country forward?
I should go ahead. I think that for the railway, you know, cocoa used to be the main item to be hauled. And the railway was moving the cocoa to Takoradi and to Accra. The private sector got involved with private haulage. And for some odd reason, we took our eyes off the maintenance of the roads, the rolling stock, and replenishing them. And also, right pricing. The problem with government-run entities is always people trying to be populist, like electricity. Every year we are paying about $1 billion and $1.5 billion for electricity we have been taking. And it's becoming more and more difficult for the oil companies to sell us gas to fuel our generating plants, and we are not able to pay them. Why? Because you and I who consume a lot of the electricity for our air conditioners and so forth, don't want to pay the right price. But in reimagining Ghana, the industries that have to compete in the African Continental Free Trade Area should be buying power at 3-4 cents per kilowatt hour. That is, we allocate Akosombo and Pong to them, because those generate power at less than 3 cents per kilowatt hour. We sell it to them to fuel the industries that will compete with Rwanda, Senegal, Ethiopia, who are selling power at 4 cents, 5 cents per kilowatt hour. So that you and I will go on the thermal generation with about 10, 15 cents per kilowatt hour. And then we'll cut down our consumption. Water is the same. Why should a guy in Nima be paying for water at a price higher than me when all I have to do is to open my tap and the water is flowing? So we should cost things properly. We were not costing the railway properly. That's what happened. Coming to Achimode School from Kumasi, I could take the blue train. That's the express train. It stopped 3 stops from Kumasi to Achimode Station. Fast, delivered. Where are the trains now? We've been trying to do to build the trains. It almost happened under Professor Mills, until the minister responsible decided, instead of the $350 million to build the Accra-Kumasi line, he was going to charge us $635 million. And Professor Mills said, are you crazy? It didn't happen. Price and costing. You and I have to be willing to pay the right price so that the government can use the little resources they have to dig boreholes for our villages.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Doc, I want to find out from you, what did we miss to make young people to have understanding of the development plan that we had in the past? And what can we do to make sure that they have that understanding moving forward? Thank you.
I told myself before the Vice Chancellor and the Registrar convinced me to do this lecture that my public speaking days are over. Because I said it takes me a little longer now, because as they say, those of us BBC, born before computers, it takes a little longer to put these things together. So I was going to make sure that after this lecture, I'm done. I've been in Ghana since 1970, when I left the UN to come and help my mentor J.H. Mensah, who was then the Minister for Finance. So I've watched the developments, and when I finished, I came on leave without pay, so I was supposed to go back. When the coup happened, and I decided, no, I'll stay, set up my own business and consulting, I've watched the Ghana development scene since 1970. I'm very fulfilled and proud because I think Ghana has been making progress. One of my achievements was helping set up SNIT, because we're looking for savings to develop the country. We couldn't find the savings. So we said, okay, why if we go to the source, income source, and start taking money from the income source? That's how SNIT was based. I went to the teachers and said, look, you are one of the richest people. They say, no, what I do, you are crazy. We are not, we are poor. I said, okay. You are 350,000 of you. If you put aside 1 cedi a month, that's 350,000. Now they are putting aside 50, 100 cedis. And the way they started doing it, every month we had to carry beer boxes of the payroll deductions to the Controller Accountant General. And I said, he was charging us for it. I said, if we put it on, you know, the floppy disk, will you charge us? He said, no, we put it on floppy disk. He said, no, my people still have to work. So they were still charging. And the Teachers Fund is one of the biggest now. So I'm fulfilled, I've seen the scene. And all we need, a little discipline. And I explain, it's a shame we didn't get the presentation. You see the plane taking off like this. You're on the tarmac. You need discipline. Your revenue, no deficits, no depreciation. I've lived through it. When I came to Ghana, I said, look, I want to buy a house in 10 years' time. I took a life policy. I was paying into it. I was going to get 100,000 cedi. The cedi was 1 to 1. 100,000 would build me my dream house. Of course, after 10 years, I got the money, 100,000. But look what had happened. I always used to joke with Kwesi Muchi. Say, Kwesi, by the time my life policy was paid 100,000, you have dropped the cedi from 1 to 1 to 350 cedis to the dollar. What was I going to do with 100,000? If the cedi is not stable, people don't feel safe. The economies grow faster when people feel safe and secure to save and invest at home. And you've seen what has happened. We say, put your money in the banks. We go and put it there. Say, hey, problem. We are cleaning up. Lack of transparency. Kwesi Indium's GoCo Securities were managing 23 billion cedis for Ghanaians, just like you and I. The government said, we'll pay. We take over Kwesi Indium's. I said, we'll pay you. You go and sit down. Minister goes to Parliament, appropriation 23 billion for paying Kwesi Indium's people. Fine. Parliament says, go and pay. Up till now, the people are still looking for 18 billion of that. Why? The government paid those who had 50,000 and below. 50,000 and below. So there are 18 billion left. Where is it? Transparency. There is no reason why the Minister for Finance cannot publish in the press. These are the people who pay, these are the amounts. The banks that were cleaned up for 21 billion. Who paid what? Put in the press. A little sunlight, transparency. So, for me, all that I've learned, all this, and I've lived through it. We say for the banks, insurance companies, long-term savings is through insurance. We, as Ghanaians, should say, insurance companies, only Ghanaians can go there. You are a government employee, government agencies. I'm like an Italian, I talk with my hands. You can only do business with this. And if you do business, we give you tax exemptions. So gradually, this is where we should be moving. But from my experience in discipline, spending what we don't have, this is it. One professor, under President Kufuor, my friend Dr. Paul Akwa, and Kojo Banredu, then Minister for Finance, and congratulate APSA. This accountant, you give him any document on the economy. The next morning you go to discuss it with him. He's underlined, he's written comments at the margins. When they went to the Eurobond, and we went to the Eurobond because we wanted to create a benchmark where the sovereign Ghana government borrows at risk-free, so that private Ghanaians companies, the bigger ones, the big boys and girls, could go there and borrow at risk-adjusted levels, maybe 2-3% more, so that they leave the meager savings in Ghana for the smaller companies. That's why we went to the Eurobond market. And I remember one of Dr. Paul Akwa's friends on the other side saying, Paul, I hope you Africans are not coming to spoil the market. You come and borrow, tomorrow you come and say you cannot pay, we should restructure. And I'm sure Paul Akwa feels ashamed of our record on the stock exchange, because subsequent ministers of finance came and they look at the Eurobond as part of their revenue sources and go to borrow to come and pay for salaries and wages, recurrent expenditure, without due regard for creating a stream of income to repay what they borrowed. This is why you and I were in trouble. And then judgment debt, where Ghanaians conspire to pay monies to foreigners by signing foolish contracts. I emphasized, when you go and read the presentation, you see the chart that have been made, the level of education of Korea. That is education before secondary school, going up, and we are here. It doesn't matter what resources you sit on or stand on. If you don't have human capital, intelligent people trained like places here, people of professional competence, not only that, and of character, not only that, and a little bit of courage to be able to say to their boss, go and pay this money. No, sir, we can't pay. It's not budgeted for. You are not the signing officer or the spending officer. So, discipline. And maybe Ghanaians will learn to, we say Ghanaians, we don't like being confrontational. But I don't think it's genetical, because some of us would like to speak our mind. This is why I like living in Ghana. I wouldn't like living in Kigame's Rwanda, no matter how clean their cities are. Because I like to talk, my mouth is big. And I like the freedom here, and we should maintain it. Because it's only when people are free that they can dream, that they can reimagine. And once we reimagine, the trains will be running. If we went on with these sovereign guarantees, we don't need the minister, people will be going to the minister, I have money, I can build. No. Put your proposals, let's start. The only thing the government needs to get a right of way, this for railway, and then we can build. Ghanaians can do it. We have the technical skills, managerial skills, commercial skills. What we lack is the money, access to credit. The Australians and all the people who come here to mine our lithium, they don't have access to credit. They are funded, but once they come and they say the lithium, we have 100,000 tons here at $500 each. They multiply. That is the asset they take to the bank to go and borrow. Why can't we give the same to the registrar if she knew something about mining? 15 years operation experience. You and your people go and mine. We'll give you the experience. And the money will come here. We will not be fighting with the gold mines. Don't leave your money there. Bring it here. Why should they bring it here? Even when they ask me, put your money in the bank, your dollars, and I'll put it there. So that when I'm traveling, I can go and take $5,000 and go. Next time I go say, oh, no, now you have to change into cities. Okay, I leave my money in London and New York. When I get out of the plane, I write a check and collect it. In the meantime, that money is not available to the Bank of Ghana. Imagine, reimagine, 3 million Ghanaians who've been outside and in. If with their bank accounts, with maybe $1,000 balance in it. If they brought it here, we will be suffering. We need certainty in the environment, discipline, and above all, supporting one another. Don't be jealous of your business friend. I'm not jealous of them. Do you want the ulcers? I don't. I remember when I first got, all my friends thought I had ulcers. I went to I had stomach problem, ulcers. Then one of the doctors said, oh, Kwame Pianim, no. He gives ulcers to others. He doesn't have ulcers. Something else. So discipline, first of all. Obeying the law. And you and I, wherever we are put, let's light our little candles in our little corners all over the country. You'll be amazed to see the illumination that these candles together, and they will light our path to a peaceful and prosperous Ghana.
All right, thank you. My name is Steven Selomavaga. So during your lecture, you didn't mention of corruption and also citizens not engaging communal labor. I think it's attributed to poor governance system in the country because we don't have a good governance system. And if you are talking about good governance system, you are talking about accountability, transparency, and the controlling. So the question is, who is accountable to who? Who is being transparent in their dealing? And then who is also controlling who? And also make comparison to that of Rwanda. I mean, Rwanda is where they are today because there's a policy or they have a long-term goal that they want to achieve in the near future. So no matter the political party that comes into power, they are still in line, in achieving that particular objective of the country. But here in Ghana, every political party comes with their own policies. And then when they don't finish, the other party comes and they come with their own policy. So how are we able to, will we be able to develop as a country if we don't have one policy in place that we want to achieve, let's say 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years? Thank you.
This is a question that has been exercising the minds of Ghanaians, especially now. You know, K.Y. Mwaku, a former executive secretary of Economic Commission for Africa, has been talking to institutions about this consensus about we having a plan and then everybody will try to implement it. You know, this is not the first time that citizens have been worried. They worried about in the Roman times, in the Greek times, looking for the philosopher king. there was a development plan put together under Nimoy Thompson. They had taken over the one that J.H. Mensah put together and built another one. The Nimoy Thompson one was for 500, I think it was going to 2057. What we had to do. You know, there is no doubt that the easiest way for any country to develop is with a dictator. Probably it is only India in the world history that is trying to develop as a democracy. No country has ever developed as a democracy, not even Singapore. Strong men, strong women. The problem is that when these strong men, strong women are right, it's fantastic for everybody. If they are wrong, the losses are monumental. The idea is with the roads and so forth. If we decentralize, and I know when Nana Akufo-Addo came in as president, he tried the first time to say, let's elect the district assembly chief executives. Colleagues of mine, very intelligent people, say, no, 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 no. We don't want political parties at the district level. To me, it was shocking. Why do we want political parties at the national level and not the local level? Oh, because to be partisan and, okay, that's what we want. But if we don't want democracy, democracy is expensive. It's messy. But as Churchill said, there is nothing better. Under President Kufuor, in our manifesto, NPP, this assembly, they were going to be elected. Once we got power, the supporters went and said, why do you want to give 245 jobs away? We didn't implement it. When Nana started, Nana Akufo-Addo, the same people came, hey, you know, in Volta region, we won't even get one district chief executive. Ah, okay. So because people were saying, no, 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 we dropped it. But development takes place at the district. It doesn't make sense to have budgetary appropriations to the ministries. Ministries don't execute. They are supposed to monitor and evaluate. The health minister is sitting there with a lot of advisors. Then there's a health service with also advisors. The budget should go to the health service. It should also go to the district, because if you are building a road, it's in a place, a locality. That's where it should be. So if we decentralized and the districts were in charge, water sanitation is there. Would they allow the rivers to be spoiled by Galamsey people? No. They will make sure that the thing is good. And at the district level, at least this one will be an improvement. I'm an Ashanti, this is my district. You are an Ashanti, this is your district. We are given the District Assembly Common Fund. You chop yours. I use mine in promoting my district. Building, doing water for them. Getting universities on holidays to come. Put drainage there for them. Making sure the community centers have solar systems so that our children can study. Making sure the children there have computers. We train our people, they go to American universities, and they haven't had access to a laptop. You can access the lectures at Harvard, Yale, MIT on Google. They are handicapped. If I was making sure that my people there, and then we have to make a rule. If you are not from the district and you try to get school there, you pay. It's no longer free, like in America. And in the new Ghana, the reimagined Ghana that we are going to be living, where we are taking advantage of the African market, we also have to make sure, like I try to make sure in Ghana, that everybody benefits. That not only Ghana is growing, prosperous, but Togo, Burkina, all these places are prosperous. Otherwise, once we are prosperous, we'll attract all these as immigrants. And we may have to negotiate with the UK government to send the illegal migrants there, just like they send theirs to Rwanda. So we need to go back to basics. The district assemblies, the local government, let them work. When they are working, the radio stations will start discussing real issues that are relevant to those people. Do the young people ever realize? And I was shocked when a few years ago I was asked to attend the memorial of the killing of the senior officers. They said it was for 40 years. I mean, the people who are voting now, they don't know what happened in 1970, 1980. They were not there. They don't know the sacrifices you people have made. How Rekumbrube was chased all over the place with his radio eye. Now plenty of radio stations talking rubbish, propagating mystery and what do we call it, witchcraft, instead of using it for good things that we fought for it to be delivered. So the local governments are important. People will begin to focus on their issues. With education, we built secondary schools in the regions and destroyed one thing, which was that Ghanaians fell together. There was cohesion. When my countryman, a champion, was in power, and he was having problems with me, he was surprised. Those who were fighting for me, Colonel Agbo. Who is Colonel Agbo? He was my classmate in Achimode School. He was fighting a champion for me. When I had issues with Rawlings, who was fighting for me? Buffalo Soldier. Why is Buffalo Soldier fighting for me? I'm sure most people here, they don't know who Buffalo Soldier is. Brigadier? No, he was a general. General Queen. He and I, we started class 1 in my village, Achinekrum. His desk is here, my desk is here. The father was a mass education officer. Achinekrum was a mass education center. So moving around, we're going to build one another as bad. So local government is important. It will diffuse this. It will help people. We can't use tribalism, and people will have to work. And then on the record of the political parties, PNC may have the district chief executive in, say, Tamale. Indians party would have had it in Sopon or something. Then we see how are they doing in their little thing. So we need to go. We are past the Rwanda stage. We had Rawlings as a military dictator. Unfortunately, he got sidetracked by, and I'll use the word, by some skin pain people, you know, who sidetracked him. I was chief executive when Rawlings came to power. I went to see him. I've been trying to increase the price of cocoa. I went to see him. When he saw me, he said, I know you. I said, you don't know me. We haven't met. He said, you are Prefect Pianim. I said, some call me that. Agri House. I said, yeah. I said, the Prefect Pianim in Agri House, who was your senior prefect? That's my young brother by 10 years. Oh, yes, sir. So whenever I go, Rawlings will make me coffee and we talk. So what's your problem? I said, I need to increase the price of cocoa. Farmers are cutting down their cocoa to plant cassava because they were being paid 25% of the FOB price. And he said, they are young girls, so I won't say what he said. He said something exploded. If my father was a cocoa farmer, I also let him cut it down. What price do you want? I said, we have to do about 30%. Okay, go and do it. 15 minutes. I've been trying to persuade the Liman government, to persuade a whole lot of people, the Kufu government. 15 minutes. It was done. If Rawlings had said, this road is for 2 vehicles, you can't make it 4 lanes, it would have happened. He said we shouldn't use cement to build blocks around our house. We shouldn't have large funerals. Unfortunately, his father-in-law died and had a big funeral. Like my friend in Tamale, the PDC man. They were seizing all people's cars and things and that. So one day they met and the guy said, look, we have to now start seizing bicycles. He says, no. I say, why not? Because I have one. So Rawlings was moved by injustice. He wanted to restore justice. Unfortunately, we say it's campaign and say, when my children say it's campaign, how do you define skin pain? Skin pain is when you have 3 balls of kenge, you can only eat half, and I have half, and you want to take my half. That's skin pain. So whatever we do, we have to go back and make the district chief executives elected. Because it will be by far cheaper to hire 3 lawyers instead of having there's so many gentlemen in parliament to pass laws for us. 3 lawyers to be cheaper, correct? So we don't need all those people in parliament. But we want them to represent the people, us. But all we need to ask them, no conflict of interest. You cannot go and sit on a board as an MP. When I used to tell them, say, why? Chief, the small things also, you want to take it away from us. If you are on a board and the records come to the accounts committee and your colleague is the board chair, what are you going to do? Conflict of interest. So we need to establish district assemblies and make them work and let the young people have an ambition. In my reimagined plan, the only people who have cars bought for them, the president, the vice president, and district chief executives, and those who work in the districts, apart from the metropolitan, we work for the metropolitan area in Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, and Tamale, no vehicles. We give you a loan, buy your own car, buy your own petrol, so that when you are increasing the price of petrol, you know what it means.
So we only have time for one final question and one quick question, and then we will.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is Haruna Ibn Yahya Musa. I work with Exim Bank Ghana. I get frustrated and more confused my first leg of question I wanted to ask has been dealt with. I wanted to ask whether what form of government this our country Ghana needs to prosper. But I've realized you've dealt with it earlier. But taking it from where you said you would always like to speak your mind, I would want you to candidly tell us currently as we speak, is Ghana in the right direction? Respectfully. Thank you.
I guess you are not old enough to know the song Abankaba. Abankaba, the song relates about somebody who is walking on the streets, and a guy meets him and said, "If ye, are things good in the house?" And he said, "If things were good in the house, would there be handcuffs on my finger?" No, the fact that we need to reimagine a new development path. And if you have seen the slides, you see that whilst Korea is going like that, we are like this, okay? $2,000 per capita income after 62 years. When we started with Korea, around $200 per head per capita income. Korea is now $33,000 per capita income. That's the gap. So the direction we are going is not good. We've adopted this go slow, go stop path of development. That's not what we need. We need to be steady, sustainable growth. And I say 5 to 6%. If we did some of the things we reimagined, got hold of our natural resources, kids can pay, get Ghanaians to take over these assets and run them. Me, I don't mind when somebody is richer than me. At least when I have a funeral, come and give me a donation. We should work it that way. So we are not well. I structured, it didn't matter how hard the Vice Chancellor and the registrar pushed me. I said, I don't want to talk about the current look, this is the first, we are in unprecedented times. Even HIPC said, thanks to Gordon Brown, the the UK Prime Minister, who pushed for debt forgiveness, now our development partners are getting less generous. I can even say mean. Even for putting money for refugees, when the UN asked for 60 billion, they got 20 billion. That's how mean the world is becoming, because they have problems by themselves. So us, our debt, about 90% of GDP. We are bankrupt. We are not paying our debt. And when your debts are due, you are not paying. It's bankrupt. We don't feel it. In the olden days, the finance people, you train accountants here, they will tell you, bankruptcy means banca rota. Banca rota. In the olden days in Rome, the 16th century, people go with their bench. Means your bench is broken. People go with their bench, you sit there. When I have excess gold or money, I give it to you. The next market day, you bring it. If you loaned it to some warriors or people to go and on expeditions, they brought extra gold, you came and paid me. Sometimes these people will come, your money is gone. So the people will come with axes and clubs and break your bench. Banca rota, your bench is broken. We are not paying our debts for the first time in our history. Under Kufuor's HIPC, they said, the money you owe us, don't pay. Use it to do other things. Ghana was one of the few countries that benefited because we had the money to pay our debts. So we used it to build infrastructure, schools, and so forth. It was bad, but not that bad. This time around, unprecedented. For the first time in the history of Ghana, Ghana goes to its creditors and say, we don't have the money to pay. Give us time. For the first time, IMF is saying, not only developed countries, lenders are going to be given a haircut, you also give your people a haircut. We say, why? Because the cedi has depreciated. If I had 50 million Ghana cedis, which was equivalent to, it was 5 to 1, $10 million. Now the cedi is about 10. So only 5. I've lost only all my head. How can you even give me a haircut? But I say, no, let your people also contribute. So our people are contributing. Our banks are in trouble. They have to make up additional capital. Ghana Commercial Bank is looking for additional capital to make up the minimum capital adequacy ratios. By the first quarter of next year, we'll find out that the banks are laying off people. GDP is what? Consumption plus investment plus net trade. The pensioners who don't have access to their money are not going to be spending. So your GDP will be shrinking. The banks will have less profit. Taxes will also go down. So the seriousness of the magnitude of the problems we face will come in the first quarter. And this is why it is important that all of us decide we need to change course. A new development trajectory, a new development path. The old one is no good. There is no Father Christmas. Only Ghanaians can develop Ghana. The rest can assist. So the problem we face, serious, unprecedented. And we need all of us, individually, to contribute. And when I said we've grown the cotton, fortunately for us, if we are using cotton, our women were always ahead of us. They dress in the textile. And then the military, the police, and so forth, cotton. We generate from a resurgent cotton industry in the north. We gin, spin, and then make it into textile. And then Ghana becomes a hub for culture, textile industry. People will go, they wear the cloth. Ghana becomes the fashion. The black diaspora will be wearing all our cloth. And what used to be Friday wear become normal wear. It's nice and hot. When I was coming out debating with my wife, maybe I should put on a suit, or the vice chancellor may be in a suit. And I said, the chairman of council may be in a suit. And I said, the hell with them, I'm going to be comfortable. So a time will come when Ghanaians in the factories, in the offices, will be wearing the textile, what we called, when I was young, called it Joromi, will be wearing the textile. It's comfortable, nice. And it will show the world Ghana is liberated, not only physically from our colonial vestiges, but mentally also. This will become formal.
Thank you. We have run out of time, but we will take one final question briefly.
Kwame, my name is Nyaho Tamaku. We have been colleagues, I think, for years, even though you are my senior. Now, when we had independence, Kwame Nkrumah came out with a brilliant vision. He put in structures. Tema Harbour, Tema New Township, the hydroelectricity at Apong, not Bon then, Akosombo, the Ghana Medical School, the Law School, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. These are structures that he put in place. You mentioned textiles and other things that can be done in this country. It has been done before. We used to even assemble televisions and radios in this country. Nkrumah sent students outside to study and come and build this nation, just like the Chinese have learned. Indeed, at a certain time in Europe, you will come across a Chinese who has nothing in his pocket, but he's studying. And in less than 50 years, look at where they are. We have our aircraft still on the tarmac. The governments have been coming, and the aircraft is at the same place. I just want to find out from you, after 62 years, do you think that aircraft can take off?
Thank you, Dr. Captain Nyaho Tamaklu. My classmate from Nsawam prison. Nyaho, when we reimagine, we can do it. You remember, we're in prison, we couldn't go out to hospital. Nkrumah built in Nsawam prison, prison, built a hospital to it. I went to Nyaho and I said, Nyaho, we are going to refurbish this hospital for us. He said, Kwame, no. I mean, when we are in prison, you feel angry. I said, Nyaho, if we don't look after ourselves here, we may die here. He said, what do you want? I said, I want you to put on your medical suit. You're a trained doctor. I got the Catholic sisters. We refurbished the Nsawam prison hospital. They gave us drugs. Nyaho every morning will put on his suit, go there, not only looking after the prisoners, but looking at the prison officers. We did it. The prison has farms, idle land. I say, you are not feeding us well. 200 acres land. We expanded it to almost 500, 600 acres. We're growing maize, vegetables. We had a poultry farm that was selling birds to Kingsway and to Ghana Airways. The prisoners, some of them have learned how to prepare the chicken. They prepare the chicken inside, put that thing inside, and we sell it. Oven ready. My wife will bring us pepper, ingredients, and I give it to some of the people and say, cook it for those in the condemned prisons. So they take the neck, the legs, the insides, and cook it for the prisoners. We did it. We set up even a bank account. By the time we were living there, we had almost about $500,000 in the bank account of the prison farms in Nsawam. When we were transferred to Anumabo, we got the Catholic sisters. They gave us money. We bought 2 boats. 3 a.m. in the morning, the prison officer would take about 10 inmates to go fishing. They bring the fish. We take 2 crates and feed the prisoners. We sell the rest. Within 6 months, we're able to repay. It can be done once we put our human mind to it. Now that we've had all these problems behind us, Nyaho, I promise you, with the same commitment and passion. What is happening in Ghana now? Things are happening. There are young women, young men doing software. All we need are the software. The government uses them. We apply them here, then we can sell it to others. What I call governance softwares. Except that the Wi-Fi system has to be working. Government can provide infrastructure. But if Ghanaians decide, after all, we're not put in this place at the juncture of the meridian and the equator for nothing. Look at Ghanaians. All over the world, the UN system, the first staff member to become Secretary General of the UN, Kofi Annan, he's my age group, the 1957-year group. All across Ghana, we call ourselves the independence class of 1957. Kufuor is our age group. The sky was not even the limit. And I want to inspire everybody here. Put your selfishness aside. You sang Yanara Assassini. The wealth that Ifremamu was able to coin, no original tree-speaking person can put it. Nimdian Traswo. You become so learned, you overpass it. In my village, they say you become so smart, you are greeting sheep as you walk around. Konton Krani, no original tree speaker could have done that. Thank you very much. I did not expect to be asked questions, but let me end by again congratulating you, Madam Registrar, fantastic woman. And I say that if what has been lacking in the government service now is executing capacity around the people who have power, and if we have people who push people like you in all those places, Nyaho do not take Ghana 33 years like it took, or 30 years like it took Korea. Within the next 15 years, if Ghana starts moving, we'll be cleaner than Singapore, we'll be richer than Singapore, because we have the resources. All we have to do, turn the resources over to Ghanaians, empower them. But you and I, when we are moving quietly, if the Western powers know this is the way we are going to go, they will block us. So quietly, we do that, finance our people, let the investors still come in for the gold mines and so forth, but let's empower our own Ghanaians to dig the gold, to dig the oil, and especially for the oil on the plains, on the land, where you just put the pump, you can even go to sleep, and your leg will be pumping up and down, and the oil is coming. We'll give it to Ghanaians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pianim, if you could please, may I invite the Vice Chancellor and the Chairman of Council to please join us on the podium. Mr. Pianim, if you could please stay for a few minutes.
You are a hard taskmaster.
We have a presentation for you that reads, with our greatest appreciation to Mr. Kwame Pianim, honored guest speaker, UPSA's 5th annual leadership lecture series. Thank you for helping us reimagine Ghana's development trajectory for a peaceful and prosperous nation. Thank you. We thank you so much to all of you for being here with us today. There are a few distinguished guests, but because of time, we'll just name a few of them. We are grateful to the Chairman of Council, Dr. Kofi Ohene-Konadu, and the members of Council who are here with us today. We're also thankful to Right Honorable Do Ajadro, former Speaker, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, Institute for Democratic Governance, Mr. Nyaho Tamaklo, a founding member of the NPP, and the president of the Ghana Bar Association and the vice chancellor for Methodist University. I'm sorry that because of time I wasn't able to thank all of you, and we certainly thank our media partners, Multimedia Group and City FM. Can we please rise for the UPSA anthem? Mr. Pianim, thank you again for a wonderful presentation that we hope will be a marker for Ghana's economic stability. We now invite the Reverend Tete to give us a closing prayer.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for such an insightful lecture. We give you all the glory, and we ask that whatever we've learned here, oh Lord, as a nation, will bring change. Thank you for this generation. We are coming forth with new ideas, and living here, we will put it to action. We thank you in the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Please remain standing for Mr. Pianim and all the honored guests to leave the building. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.